So the faction change is now available on live servers for WOTLK Classic. And not just a faction change, you can get a family size KFC bucket faction change and buy 8 at once for £60. That's £7.50 per character. And obviously at a glance this seems like a pretty good deal. You could move all of your characters to the opposite faction for a much reduced fee. But today we're going to talk about the potential issues that the faction change could bring to the game. To understand the issues, we need to talk about Cataclysm, which may seem like a very oddball tangent, but trust me, it isn't. Cataclysm raiding will be a big difficulty step up from WOTLK Classic. WOTLK Classic was already a step up in itself from TBC, and Cataclysm will follow that pattern. Even the heroic dungeons on launch had to be nerfed because so many players were complaining. But why am I talking about the difficulty of Cataclysm and how is it relevant? Well, if we do get Classic Cataclysm, which is very likely, with the increased difficulty, players will be encouraged to optimize and min-max even more in order to find the path of least resistance. Cata really became the expansion where if you raided, you played Horde, and if you PvP'd, you played Alliance. For Horde has the best raid DPS ratios, and Alliance, well, let's be honest, Human, has the best PvP ratio with every man for himself. I remember during the Rated Battleground era of Cataclysm and Mr. Pandaria, I played on the Outland server, where the trade chat was spammed by Arena and RBG teams, and obviously I played Alliance. It was actually genuinely a rare sight to see a raiding guild recruiting on that server. I only remember seeing one raid guild in fact, and they immediately got absolutely ridiculed and called PvE scrubs by everyone else on the server. And at a later date when I switched to Horde and played on the Draenor server, it was basically the opposite story. You never saw RBG or Arena teams. To be honest, this already is an issue. Willie made a good video recently highlighting how in the top 1000 passes on Warcraft logs for WoW Classic, only 56 were Alliance. And this makes sense because when you compare the DPS difference between an Orc Unholy DK and a Human Unholy DK, the Orc will do 200 DPS more, which is actually a 2% DPS increase. This may seem like a small increase, but if every DPS in your raid has this 2% increase, then combined all together, that is a pretty decent damage increase. Then you got to think about how is this going to translate into kill times. It will make the raids much easier, first of all, and being able to kill a boss faster will mean much better passes, because the total amount of damage you deal during the encounter will be divided by a smaller number. So it makes sense how all of the big passes in the game currently are Horde. They have the Troll Berserking ratio, which is basically a mini Bloodlust, and an attack power and spell power ratio from the Orc ratio, which can also actually be snapshotted. Whereas the Alliance ratios are much less significant in comparison. Our expertise ratios are nice but limited to weapon choice, and they're just not as powerful as they were in Vanilla WoW. The hit chance buff from Draenei is nice, but this buff doesn't even benefit spellcasters over the spell hit cap. Whereas the Orc racial got buffed to also include spell power, and the Troll racial got buffed to not have its low health requirements. By the way guys, if you haven't already, please do an absolute solid and subscribe to the channel, and subscribe to my second channel. I'm very close to getting 1000 subscribers, pretty sure I'm less than 20 away, and so I'd really appreciate it. So, playing Horde will always get you better passes. As an Alliance Druid or Paladin, you probably have a better fighting chance because the Horde racials for those classes don't have a significant racial advantage. But Horde will always have the faster kill times, until Cataclysm turns up anyway, because then all the passing Druids will switch to Troll. Now back to the faction transfer. This obviously increases the ease of access for people to change their faction since they no longer have to re-roll. The only deterrent here is that most servers in WOTLK Classic are so bad, they are either totally dominated by the Horde or Alliance, which means people would also have to transfer to another server and spend a little bit more money. There will be people right now, as we're speaking, forking out triple figures just to get all of our characters moved to be in a better situation purely to get better passes. Do not underestimate how much people care about passes in this game. And whether you like this or not, it will eventually affect the casual player. If right now you're playing on a medium populated server as Alliance, where Horde is the dominant faction, how long do you really think you have left before the Alliance is dead on your server? Now, I'm not saying that everyone in Alliance is doomed and you need to change faction, but over the next few years, I can guarantee you the options on what servers you can play will become limited, especially as a very large majority, basically 9 out of 10 players, are focused on PvE content rather than PvP content. If you're already on an Alliance-dominated server, you really don't need to worry about anything most likely, except if you care about passing, because all the top passing players will spend the money to move their characters to the Horde for the racials and to the best servers to join high-performing raid teams. So in Wrath Classic, there are game design issues that incentivize players to spend money on character services. How many on WOTLK do you think switched from Troll to Orc when they nerfed the Gargoyle Haste Snapshot? The answer is a lot. In addition to this, the concept of an MMO realm is totally archaic in my humble opinion. Back in the day, fair enough, it was a technological limitation, but these days you could easily just put the whole of the Classic community on one mega server like other MMOs do. A lot of Classic players probably wouldn't like that because they fear change so much, but at least there wouldn't be any server issues or the need to spend even more money on the game to transfer your character. They could have also micromanaged these servers better, like for instance merging 2 servers with dwindling populations. Instead of the servers being fixed, we instead have to pay for realm transfers. I mean, why spend money fixing the servers when you can just make more money out of a bad situation, right? But ironically, do you think Blizzard would have been able to maintain more subscribers if they simply made a better product by preventing server issues? Let me know in the comment section down below. And the same goes for racial imbalances. Blizzard knew and the players knew that the racials in Wrath are massively imbalanced. And now with the faction transfer available later in the game, the problem is we've spent a lot of time investing into our characters, getting them the best raid gear, making us, as players, more likely to just fork out, spend money on a faction transfer rather than re-roll. Classic WoW was a chance for Blizzard to refine and improve the game, and to be fair, they have in many ways, but they definitely forgot to rebalance the racials. With balanced racials, the only incentive then to get a faction transfer, which I by the way still think should be available in the game, the only need to do that would be so that you can go and play with your friends. I mean, they're not afraid to make class changes. They have recently just buffed the Rat Paladin and the Unholy DK, so why not rebalance the racials instead of just giving people a multi-pack faction transfer? It's almost like saying, yeah, we know there's an issue, but we're not going to fix it. But you can go and spend money to fix the situation for yourself. I know only top players are going to spend the money on a faction transfer to get better passes, but as I have explained in the video, in the long term, this will cause issues for every player who plays the game. But anyway guys, that is just my humble opinion. Don't let it scare you or anything. It'll be interesting to see what you guys also think in the comment section down below. But until my next video, ciao.